As a reporter, I've traveled the Middle East for many years. It's an area that has always fascinated me, but in my work, I've mainly covered its war zones, its crises, and its tragedies. This journey, which takes me down the Silk Road in the footsteps of Marco Polo, gives me the opportunity of exploring the great historical and cultural significance of this part of the world, its ancient melting pot of peoples and civilizations that have contributed so much to our own. Mountains in the heart of Asia, mountains as far as the eye can see, interspersed with deserts, stretching thousands of kilometers. This is where the Pamir Mountains meet the Hindu Kush, the Karakoram, and the first ranges of the Himalayas. This is where China begins too. In the far west of the country lies the city of Kashgar. At first glance, this vast oasis doesn't seem Chinese despite the confident stance of the Mao Zedong statues. The city is in the far west of the autonomous region of Xinjiang, the province of the Uyghur minority, cut off from the rest of China by the vast Gobi Desert. The Uyghur are a Turkic-speaking people. They naturally look towards Central Asia rather than Beijing, some 6,000 kilometers to the east. On the edge of the formidable Taklamakan Desert, Kashgar was a long vital stop on the Silk Road, which really shaped the city's identity. For centuries, yaks were used to pull the palanquins of princesses sent on diplomatic missions to the far-flung corners of the empire to get married in its vassal states. But today, as you can see here in Kashgar, they're used to ferry tourists about. Come on, buddy, you've nothing to be ashamed of. Silk Road merchants converted the Uyghurs of Kashgar to Islam in the 8th century. To this day, many of them belong to the Sufi orders of Bukhara and Samarkand. When Marco Polo visited the city, there are a great many Nestorian Christians too, including the renowned Rabban Bar Salma, who made practically the same journey as the Venetian, only in reverse, from Beijing to Jerusalem. Formerly known as East Turkestan, Xinjiang has just 22 million people, a drop in the ocean of 1.3 billion Chinese. The Uyghurs are one of the country's 55 recognized national minorities. However, even in their homeland, they've slipped to a rough parity with the Han newcomers, China's majority ethnic group. The Bazaar Quarter is nothing like China. Clothes, crafts, and tupas, the city's distinctive fur caps, everything here is reminiscent of the republics of Central Asia. All the signs are in Arabic script rather than ideograms, and honestly, I hardly saw a single Chinese-looking face. Apart from the tourists, of course, who come to discover the new frontier, which is what Xinjiang means in Mandarin. There aren't only fur hats here, though. There are vipers, too.
Come in, come in.
The store of Muttaleb, the apothecary, is overflowing with weird and wonderful remedies. Muttaleb, just to be sure, is this Chinese medicine, Uyghur medicine, or a combination of both?
They're all traditional Uyghur medicines that our ancestors used to gather and collect in the mountains. This is genuine traditional Uyghur medicines. The Uyghurs have always used these medicines to treat themselves. They still do today. And even now, these remedies can be found in books.
When crossing the Pamirs on the way to Kashgar, Marco Polo suffered from acute mountain sickness. Do you have a medicine, a concoction for altitude sickness?
When you go to places that are high up, where the air is thin, you have to take hilil. In ancient times, our ancestors would put some in their mouths when they traveled in the mountains and suffered from the lack of oxygen.
Oh, right, so you put it in the back of your mouth.
You let it melt in your mouth and your head stops spinning.
And it relieves your headache.
No more vomiting.
Oh, you stop vomiting. That's great. Which illnesses do people mainly come to you for?
Mostly they're people with digestive problems. After eating, they get flatulence and they burp.
Okay, and what else?
The second most common complaint is coughs and then headaches, aching muscles. They come with the names of the medicines. They consult the books they have at home, note down the medicine, or make notes from the books. I look at these notes and prepare the medicine.
All these ingredients, do you get them in the desert or do you buy them from suppliers?
Most of these medicines are brought here by the peasants who gather them. Some plants are imported. Some come from our own regions.
Despite the bazaar's many charms, the town centre isn't the location of the most fascinating vestige of the Silk Road, just as Marco Polo must have seen it when he arrived here in the 13th century. Every Sunday, the focus of activity shifts to Kashgar's suburbs for the huge livestock market, which attracts breeders from all the Turkic Mongol groups. Sheep, Angora goats, horses, donkeys, yaks, Bactrian camels. At the Ulag Bazaar, or animal market, tens of thousands of animals are traded every Sunday. It's at its liveliest at the beginning of fall when the nomads come down from the alpine pastures to sell their animals to the city's butchers and smaller sedentary breeders. There is a brotherly, joyful atmosphere at this market, except for the animals whose end is near. Come and give me a hand. Okay, whoa. You're welcome, guys. The touching thing about this Kashgar market is all the animals of Marco Polo's caravans are still here today. There's the yak, which is worth 2 camels, the camel, which is worth 2 horses, the horse, which is worth 2 donkeys. So a yak is worth 8 donkeys. China is growing at a rapid pace. It's set to take over as the world's largest economy. But here, the Uyghurs' traditional way of life is still very much in evidence. This is what Adila Amat, a regional public official, explains. What does this market sell most of?
Every Sunday, animals such as sheep, horses, cows, and goats are sold here. Farmers from many different regions gather here to buy and sell livestock.
It's a huge market. Where do all these people come from? Which regions? And which ethnic groups are they?
Every week, Kazakh, Uyghur, Tajik, and Kyrgyz farmers come here to sell their animals. Kazakhs, Uyghurs, Tajiks, and Kyrgyz.
What strikes me, though, is I've just arrived in China. There aren't any Han Chinese people here in Kashgar. Is that because there are only Uyghurs or because the Han don't come to the livestock market?
The Kashgar area is mainly populated by Uyghurs. They are the most numerous. Also, minority ethnic groups such as the Uyghurs, the Kazakhs, the Tajiks, and the Kyrgyz have businesses here. In the farming and breeding sectors, they are mainly Uyghurs. That's why our Chinese friends don't come here.
Uyghur food is distinct from Han Chinese cuisine, but I do see people using chopsticks. Adila, you yourself are Uyghur. What does it mean to be Uyghur today?
Yes, I'm Uyghur. The Uyghurs live primarily in the region of Xinjiang. In Kashgar, we Uyghurs make up 90%, maybe even 100% of the population. The Uyghurs are an ancient ethnic group with a rich history and culture. Since the introduction of the One Belt, One Road initiative, there have been all sorts of changes in the life of the Uyghurs too. We're welcoming development. I'm sure our life will be even better.
The One Belt, One Road initiative, praised by Adila, is the colossal government project to revive the Silk Road with pipelines, highways and high-speed trains. Billions of dollars of investments, of which one of the stated objectives is to cement Beijing's control over its Western minorities by bringing them prosperity. South of Kashgar, the fabled Karakoram Highway cuts through the mountains to Pakistan. Given the beauty of this site at the foot of the Himalayan range, it's no wonder Mahmud Al-Qashgari chose to be buried here. A native of Kashgar, this 11th century man of letters traveled throughout Central Asia, then settled in Baghdad, where he compiled a compendium of the Turkic languages of the time, which also serves as an atlas and remains one of the most comprehensive accounts of one of the Silk Road's golden ages. Although Muslim, the Uyghurs who come to worship at his tomb tie prayer flags and knots to the trees, in the manner of their shamanic ancestors of the steppe and their Buddhist neighbors of the Tibetan plateau. Mahmud al-Qashgari's tomb is still a place of pilgrimage for Muslims. Local officials, all have the distinction of being descended from the holy man, maintain his sanctuary. A scholar and Sufi mystic, Al-Qashgari took years to compose his dictionary, preserved preciously by his descendants at the foot of his tomb. It contains an absolute gem, a map detailing all the routes of Asia. This is an 11th century map. It has to be the very first map of the Silk Road. In yellow you can see the deserts, in red the routes. Japan is there, Kashgar is here, and this, in fact, it's a map of Central Asia, of the Turkic world, but ultimately of the world of the Silk Road. Although highly stylized, this map is actually far more accurate than the travel account dictated by Marco Polo on his return to Venice. It highlights the cultural, commercial and scientific continuity between the Empire of China and the Persian Empire. The real meeting point of the Chinese and Persians lies at the top of the Karakoram Highway. This extremely steep route has historically linked China to the Indian subcontinent. It's arguably the world's most scenic road too. Karakoram Highway is without doubt one of the most famous Silk Road routes. It crosses the mountain range of the same name, which is an extension of the Himalayas. Until the mid-20th century, scaling its 4,000-meter passes was extremely arduous and challenging for the yak caravans. In the 1970s, the Chinese set about making this 1,300-kilometer route suitable for motor vehicles all the way to Abbottabad in Pakistan, a colossal task that cost the lives of some 1,200 workers, roughly one life for every kilometer. The Chinese are now back at work as part of the much-publicized New Silk Road program. This construction project is less dangerous, but perhaps even more colossal. As well as a highway, Beijing is financing a high-speed rail line snaking over viaducts and around peaks and precipices. The objective remains the same, to open up the oasis of Western China by crossing the mountains separating it from the rest of Asia. For caravans to tackle the Himalayas, crossing the mountains must have been worth it. From 3,000 meters above sea level, the pack horses and camels' nostrils had to be bled to help them breathe. With the snow and ice, only the yak caravans made it through. King of the Himalayas, the yak moves at a very slow pace, but it can carry loads of up to 130 kilos. Tireless and not prone to altitude sickness, as it has always lived here, it was the most prized animal in the days of the caravans. Through the lofty Tashkurgan Valley, over 3,000 meters above sea level, journeyed one of the Silk Road's most important travelers, who would leave his mark on the history of China and Asia as a whole. In the 4th century, the Chinese monk Bastien made a pilgrimage to India and brought back Buddhism. Nestled in the mountains, this high-altitude valley is still a meeting point and melting pot of Asia's religions and peoples. This place, Tashkurgan, or Stone Fortress, could be the site Ptolemy referred to as the Stone Tower, the famous meeting point of the Chinese and Persian merchants. A handful of other sites claim the honor of being the Stone Tower mentioned by the classical geographer, but Tashkurgan has better arguments. Indeed, you can find vestiges here of the Greek civilization of Afghanistan, the legacy of Alexander the Great's descendants, as well as many traces of Zoroastrianism from Iran, which influenced Islam, Buddhism, and Confucianism. These ruins truly seem to be the East's gateway to the Far East, the frontier between two worlds. To the west, Afghanistan is 20 kilometers away. Tajikistan is 15 kilometers. And to the south and the east, India and Pakistan are 150 kilometers away. On this high Chinese plateau wedged between the ranges of the Pamir, the Hindu Kush, the Karakoram, and the Himalayas, I can truly say I've reached the heart of Asia. What's perhaps most surprising about Tashkurgan are the traces of Iranian culture to be found here. These include several fire altars erected by the Zoroastrians, whose faith was the official religion of the vast Persian Empire for over 1,000 years. Then there are these stone circles at the very top of a hill overlooking the valley. They are the remains of a tower of silence, where the Zoroastrians placed their dead, as Nazi Begin Kutseli explains. The young guide belongs to the Tajik ethnic group, whose language is a dialect of Persian. Today, the Tajiks, whether it's just there, behind that mountain in Tajikistan, just over there in the valley in Afghanistan, or here in China, what religion are they?
Muslim. The Muslim Tajiks of Tashkurgan are Shiite.
For me, it's quite amazing and even moving to see you like this, because I spent months and months reporting in Afghanistan, just over there, 20 kilometers away, on the other side of the border, and I never saw a Tajik woman without a veil. Yet here you are, without a hijab or a burqa, and I can see your eyes.
The Tajiks here have never hidden their faces. We wear skull caps or embroidered hats around which we wrap a turban, but we never cover our faces. We have never hidden our faces. We wear these skull caps or embroidered hats on our heads. We used to believe in Zoroastrianism 2,500 years ago, but it still has a very strong influence on our life. We still venerate fire. We still venerate light. In addition, we Tajiks wear a type of circular hat that represents the shape of the sun.
Here in Tashkurgan, on the Pamir Plateau, we're really at the junction of the Indian, Persian and Chinese cultural areas. This was one of the hubs of the Silk Road. Do you still have contact today with the peoples just over the other side of the border, a few kilometers away?
Around us, there's Afghanistan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and other neighboring countries. We have links with all of these countries. Some of us even have relatives there. Others trade with them. We have a very close relationship. I grew up here. I'm proud to live here.
I have to admit, seeing this border has always been a dream of mine. It's the frontier of Alexander the Great soldiers, the very edge of terra cognita, opening onto the harsh and mysterious expanses of Rudyard Kipling's novels, Ella Mayar's great travel accounts, and even the world of dreams that are the adventures of graphic novel hero Corto Maltese. Many frontiers are merely lines drawn on maps, changing according to politics. Yet here in Tashkurgan, you feel you have truly reached the end of the world. This is where Central Asia gives way to China. It's the threshold of a new continent, that of the Son of Heaven. Numbering just 50,000 today, the Tajiks of China have been officially recognized as an ethnic minority by the Chinese authorities, and even put in the spotlight. In a remote hamlet at the very end of the plateau, the villagers are celebrating a wedding tonight. They don't really look Chinese. The men greeting one another outside and the women of the family are preparing the festivities. When a Tajik marries, the entire clan must join in the week-long celebrations. It's open house around the living room stove as the bitter cold descends at sunset. In the courtyard, the eagle dance performed by the guests brings to mind the sacred Varegna bird, a legacy of the religion, Zoroastrianism, that the Tajiks hold dear. Tonight, the valley's notables crowd around the bridegroom. Yul Araspalat is 28 years old. I must say I'm surprised the bride isn't here. Why is that? What is a Tajik wedding like?
Thank you so much for coming. If you haven't seen the bride, it's because, according to our customs, Tajik weddings last 3 days. For the first 2 days, the bride and groom celebrate separately with their own guests, and then on the third day, the groom goes to fetch the bride.
Are all these people coming in and out and greeting you, the wedding guests, or just your own relatives?
There's a major cultural difference between the Tajiks and other ethnic groups. 2 days before the wedding, we invite all the villagers who have had a death in their family. The Tajiks are the only people to do this.
Okay, even though the bride isn't here, could I ask you how you met Usmidan and how you decided to get married?
Our parents didn't introduce us. Usmidan and I have known each other since school. We've been sweethearts for 10 years. Now it's time to make things official. We've been engaged for 2 years, as is the custom. But it's been 10 years in all. It's a long time. But love always brings bleeding hearts together.
Yularas, I can see you're very attached to your traditions, that they're of great importance to you. What defines these traditions, and more generally, how would you define Tajik society?
The Tajik symbol is the eagle. It represents hard work, bravery, and wisdom. Having watched our ethnic group's eagle dance, I'm sure you have seen this. I'm proud to be Tajik. The Tajiks are warm and generous people. We are united and always willing to help one another. We love the country of our ancestors and every compatriot who lives there.
How timeless they seem, and how serene too, these Tajiks forgotten by history in their secret valley deep in the heart of Asia. these living witnesses of the Silk Road's allure.